Let's see, when they decided, they're like, can 5 o'clock, we're gonna do this, by 5:30, I think it was more 5:32. Yeah, I'm still prepared.
So I'll be back. I probably won't get to see my granddaughter. I actually have a committee meeting tomorrow at 4.
You can't get out of.
I just sit back and show up.
Yeah, right? Well, good luck.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you need it. Really? Really? Get your priorities straight.
Yeah, Mayor, what's new? I've seen you since Friday. You fixing it?
I didn't know we went to Saturday night.
By the way, we showed this live.
No, but we get ready. Yes, we're on YouTube. Yeah, we're on YouTube. Ready to start?
Yes, we are. Okay, we'd like to welcome everyone to city council meeting tonight. We're having our work meeting. Excuse me. Okay. Welcome everyone to South Weaver City Council. Tonight we're doing our work meeting in preparation for our 2025 budget. And it's 6 p.m. Tuesday, the 24th, 2024. We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance from Councilwoman Petty and then a prayer by Councilman Deal.
Please stand and repeat the pledge with me. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our kind and most glorious Heavenly Father, Father, we're grateful that we could come together today as a city and the city leaders to be able to go over the needs of our citizens and this city. Please help us to make the right decisions, to be able to be wise in how we spend the money and to take into account the needs of all of our citizens. This we pray for humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Angie and Joel. We'll just dive right into this then tonight. Marin is going to be just a few minutes late, and so we're going to start with Tia. So we'll turn the time to Tia, and hopefully when she's completed, we're going to go through the fleet program, I think, first, and then hopefully Marin will be here. So Tia.
Great, thank you. So on page 73 is going to be our current rotation schedule that is in the budget. There are 2 other options that were presented based on the workshop discussions to try and space out vehicles a little more evenly throughout the next couple of years. Does anyone want to discuss any of that? No, you're good.
So you mentioned that we had some other options. Weren't there some other options in there that we were maybe gonna not trade out all of these this next year?
Yeah,
We're
so
going
as
to
of
keep
right
some of
now, the rotation is for, we have 6 public works vehicles and 4 for fire. And discussing with our public works director, he gave us a suggestion for spacing those out a little bit more for the public works vehicles. So we have 3 and 3 for the option 2 to do 3 rotations this year and then 3 rotations for next year, or excuse me, 3 vehicles. And then option number 3 is to actually do 2, 2, and 2. So we have 2 this year, 2 next year, and then 2 the following year. So it just kind of pushes it out a little bit more.
So just so I can have a full understanding, we're looking at how we're going to be able to get the best price to get these vehicles resold, and that's why we're looking at being able to do them so quickly within just a couple of years. I believe we talked last time about whether we have any type of data for that, and right now we're kind of using this time to create that data so that we can look through it and see. Are there any criteria we're using for the judging of whether this is successful or not?
Well, this was determined by a previous finance director, and working through Bain Corporate Leasing Company. So that's the decision that they said would give us the best resale value and give us the best return on the vehicle. Yeah, this is kind of our first time doing this, so we don't have any data showing that this will be the best option. We are looking at other schedules. So as of right now, this was the plan, and this was what's in the budget.
Which options in the budget? I'm sorry.
The 3-year rotation.
Is that
Option two.
Option 1 was to do all of them every 3 years.
Go to page 73.
73.
Oh,
73 says to provide.
Right, but yeah, so when we talked with at the retreat, it was, let's look at some other options to help space out the vehicles because there was such a large rotation.
So option 1's currently in the budget. Option 2 is what staff is recommending.
Is that correct?
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Public Works.
We definitely want to spread them out. We definitely want to spread them out. We didn't want to have to come and replace the whole fleet.
Right.
You know,
Not like that.
I thought that's how it was set up, but there was a glitch in how things happen. And so, yeah, we definitely, and the way we're looking at it is we can buy them really cheap on state contract, and if we can sell them almost still new, then we can replace them for, and not lose any money. And it's the other option is you hold them as long as you possibly can until they start costing you a lot of money. Then they have a lot less resale value. So we just figured, and we don't have a mechanic on staff, so we can just rotate them out. We still hold their value. And according to, what was the gentleman bank before? Bob Hugo, a lot of the other cities are doing it and they're making money when they sell them. So that's kind of the model we went with. But the previous finance director got them all in one rotation, but definitely got them. It's a pretty big chunk of, for public works budget to replace everything in 1 year. So if you spread around.
So you prefer option 2 over option 3? So option 3 takes those out a couple more years.
Deal with option 3, like I say, there's a couple of the trucks that we'll just keep driving. They're still, really good shape. But in the future, that's why we're setting it up the way we do. We can do either one if we need to make it happen.
Okay.
So option 2 was.
Option 2 is selling 3 trucks this year and 3 trucks next, trading in 3 trucks this year and 3 trucks next year.
Instead of doing them all at once.
Yeah, instead of doing all this year, and then option 3 is doing 2 this year, 2 next year, and 2 the following year.
Of those 6, there are additional vehicles in those other years as well.
Yeah.
Point of clarification, going back to the previous question that was asked, the budget, the tentative budget that will be brought forward for us to approve currently has option 1 in it, but you're recommending option 2. In my opinion, whatever option the staff is recommending should be the one that's in the tentative budget. So help me understand the question of which option is going to be brought forward for us to approve
Whichever one you tell us to.
tonight.
Yeah,
So whatever-
tonight
so,
is
okay, you're
just-
looking for direction tonight.
Yeah, so the draft budget as it stands right now has option 1. We haven't changed that until we could have the discussion tonight.
Thank
If
you.
there's a preference, then we would adjust and bring that back for the tentative budget adoption. Yeah. Good clarification.
I would like to move to one of the other 2, just.
Well, and it's hard. We did it all at once.
Yeah.
We did this whole thing and we need to spread out the next painful step a little bit.
Yeah, like I say, I don't want to come every year and say, replace, every 3rd year, replace every truck. It'd be a lot easier.
Right.
Which almost defeats the whole thing.
Is that?
It almost defeats the whole thing.
Yeah, it just makes it really hard to, get your budget every third year.
Yeah.
What would be helpful for me moving forward would be the analysis. If you're doing it every 2 years, every 3 years, hold on, let me finish the thought, would be the earned value you're talking about. How much money we getting back after we sell them for 3 years versus how much money we getting back, or the delta after 4 years, or the delta for doing option 2, you're gonna have those 2 options right there. What's the better earned value for the public for the time at which we use that vehicle? And that'd be helpful data to know if, for future rotation, if it's a 2, 3, or 4 year.
Yeah, that's like I say, this whole thing's in its infancy, and
Yeah.
with COVID and everything, it really got messed up. We couldn't get vehicles for a minute, and I mean, everything, it was supposed to be a really smooth transition, so we'll definitely put together all the, data.
And we,
for the future.
That's the other thing to remember with COVID, there was a shortage of chips. And so resale value on those 2020, 2021 models are higher than normal than the ones you're going to get resale value this year because there's a higher surplus. So just bear that in mind when we go through this analysis. The value we're getting this first go around may not be the same delta we get 6 years from now.
exactly.
Yeah.
And for, I think some of you know, some of you don't know, we haven't fully decided on how we're going to sell these either. If it's going to go to the auction, whether we're going to declare them surplus and sell them to the public, or multiple different ways we can do this to see what's the most economical, but we also don't want to consume staff and have it be someone's full-time job selling vehicles either.
I think Larry
So-
make a fabulous-
I think I need another job.
And he's got a
I
big
need
yard
another
down there.
job.
We could line him up
I do.
in.
Is there not a surplus policy?
We do, but it
and
allows for some,
guidance.
it allows for some flexibility.
Okay,
there
so
to
you have
just get
options.
best value.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not
We
looking for
do.
direction on how. Okay.
Not necessarily.
No,
But the idea of learning as we go and gaining more understanding of earned value, I think that's a great term and a great topic. Is that this first rotation, the 2 that we declared surplus just last month that are going to become, we'll flip those, we'll get some knowledge gained from that sale. And that will help us as we move forward. By spreading it out and not doing all of them right now, we do get additional data. And I think that's the value. One additional piece of value is by spreading that out, we don't sell all of them. And then that's all the data we get. If we do some of them this year, push some of them off, then now we do have comparative data relative to their ages and length of time of holding on to it. And it's real numbers, not just estimates at that point.
Council, I guess I'm more in favor of option 2. It's a more balanced approach, in my opinion.
I would agree.
I would agree.
I just have one question though for Derek. So, Parks and Rec pushed a couple out, but fire didn't. So are we doing, is there 4 total trucks in fire?
Correct.
I know.
We can push.
I'm
however you want to
just
push.
asking everybody's opinion. Is it smarter to split those up as well, like we did with Public Works?
Yeah, if we
Is
did
it-
split them, it'd be fine to do. What I would like to do is keep both brush trucks together because it's cheaper for us to order matching vehicles and then both medic trucks, same. But operationally, it makes no difference to me whether it's 3 or 5 years. I just need to know
Well, and I
when
think
to
just,
order.
aren't the 4 trucks listed here just regular? They're not, that's not part of the brush trucks, right?
No, of the 4 trucks, 2 of those are brush trucks.
The 550s?
Yes.
Yeah, the 2 Rams are the medic trucks. And
Okay.
the 2 550s are the brush trucks.
For me, it's just knowing sooner rather than later because
I agree.
it took us
Yeah.
2 years to get our brush
It
trucks
took a long
last time.
time. I don't, what's everybody's opinion on that?
They're Fords. What do you care?
That was Wayne Windsor, Michelle. who said that.
I just thought that might, because those 2 trucks are high dollar trucks. I didn't know you'd want to keep them together, so that's what I was thinking of splitting one of those and one of the others is what I was thinking, but if it's more economical, I can see the advantage.
Yeah, they give you discounts for ordering like vehicles. So it's better to order both brush trucks at the same time so they can order duplicate parts and they cut you a deal that way.
How much do those run approximately? without the
wanna know.
discount.
Mhm.
I don't want to know.
We pulled them up in the committee, and brand new ones right now are going anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000.
Well, and that was my other question. Is this considered more of a larger apparatus truck than the fleet program was meant for just regular trucks and vehicles? In my opinion, when it first was initiated.
Right.
We went back and forth a little
We-
bit
we
on
did.
that as far as which ones should be on and which ones shouldn't, and ultimately decided, yeah, let's include these in the vehicle rotation and see what can come from that. But again, there's not real
Yeah.
data on that yet.
One aspect of the brush trucks that we haven't talked a lot about, and that's my fault for not bringing it up. And I even forgot to bring it up in committee when we were talking about this, is the back part of the brush trucks, the skids. We can save a ton of money by reusing those skids and just remounting those skids onto a brand new truck. And then we're still getting the value from the truck, but not having all the cost of the skid. So that's a good way for us to save a lot of money when it comes to the brush trucks, is by using those skids for 15 to 20 years, but rotate the vehicle and get the value out of the vehicle.
Especially because of the use is fairly low.
Right.
the current time.
Because so comparing that in my mind, that's similar to a dump truck plow. Aren't the plows about 200, 230?
The big bobtail trucks are,
And we're doing that on a 5-year rotation.
I believe that's what you have.
Yeah,
Currently.
so.
Well, the question I have, and this is, I think more for Tia than anything else, is that, so if we're pulling out any measurable way within the next decade to be able to tell whether we're getting a good deal or not with the brush trucks and the medic trucks, they don't seem to be part of the plan to be able to, judge whether we're making money, whether we're not, whether we're losing, when the good time to trade in is. So with the parks and sewer trucks, basically the Ford 350s, does that give us enough points? Does that give enough separation? Is each one being a year apart so that we can do this plan and actually look at it? Or are the first trucks, because we've already done 2, and now if we swap these out, that really doesn't give us any variation or a control or anything to be able to tell whether we're making or losing money on doing this quick turnaround, which was part of the idea of being able to look at the lease that way. Because we've got mowers down below. I'm just saying, do we have enough to be able to still do that plan in option 2, where we'll be able to tell whether we're making money or not, or losing money in a larger area with the lease?
I mean, I think it's going to be, I think we're just going to have to wait it out at least a year and see if what we get back. The 2 trucks that were just declared surplus last month are older. They're 2017, 2019. So that's not going to give us a clear determination of what value we're going to get out of, versus a vehicle that is only 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I think with this rotation, I think we're going to get a lot more information. They're a lot newer, used a lot less. So I think we're going to get a lot more information. To me, that seems like enough data, but again, another year we'll have more. So.
Right. So taking out the brush truck and the Rams, that leaves us 3 Ford F-350s. And are we planning on selling or rotating those out this year or next? Because if all of the others, well, I guess we got the trucks down below also that are part of it. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's,
Okay.
yeah, whatever we've got in there, if whatever option we go with, that's what we'll be rotating.
Okay. So you'll still have enough to be able to, okay.
Just going back one thing, Tia, I think you do have some valuable data with the 2017 and 2019. If you look at it in regards, not the maintenance cost, tires, gas, windshield wipers, throw that out. Just the cost of the vehicle, the net cost of the vehicle
Right.
per mile, or you can do the net cost of the vehicle per time of service. You'll have some metrics there that
Yeah.
with these other ones, you'll be able to gauge
We'll
if
get
it's 4
more.
years, 5 years, 2 years, and what is the value that the public's getting for that cost. So I
Right.
think you do have some data coming.
Yeah, they are older vehicles, but you're right. We will have data for reselling an older vehicle. yeah, so.
And I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but the two wildlands trucks have been used basically not at all. I mean, the wildlands program, until it really gets up and going, can we not put those on the 5-year rotation?
Oh, we easily can do that. In fact, at this point, they're basically gonna have to be on a 5-year rotation.
That's what I
already.
mean. And then you plan for that long lead time.
Right, and just to clarify, just because they haven't been deployed doesn't mean they haven't been used.
I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
that, but not like they could be.
Right,
used.
right.
If they were going every time,
Right,
and it'd be, they'd take on some abuse
for sure.
and need to be replaced.
Right.
So I would recommend though, because I agree, a 5-year rotation on that, but we need to ensure that that's not on the same rotation as these dump trucks. I would prefer that we have those on alternating years, every 2 or 3.
That would be a big number at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how this affects the return on investment, but if we even push it to 6 years, just so they're alternated, that really doesn't matter to me. It's from an operation standpoint.
Then I would agree with option 2 with moving those 2 things.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that, Derek. Okay.
Just out of curiosity, Mark Larson, you have a 2019 dump plow bobtail, and then we have another one bobtail. What year is that other one? Do you know?
I'd have to look. I want to say 17, but I'm not sure. I think about a couple years before.
Okay. Thank you.
But like I said, I'd have to actually get on my works and look it up.
Okay.
So just to make sure staff's on the same page of what you want in the tentative budget, you want option 2 with the 2 brush trucks moving to the 5-year rotation instead of the 3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opposite years of.
But not in
plows.
the same, yeah, not in the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, alternating with the large
Yeah.
dump trucks.
We're the same with Public Works. At this point, if we have to keep something longer or shorter, or whatever, just even
To
everything
get it out.
I mean, this might tend to even things out more than worrying about what we return and all that, just to make sure that moving forward, it works.
Yeah, good point.
I know we had this conversation before. One last question. Help me understand why the Polaris Ranger is part of the fleet and not equipment?
That's the recreation vehicle.
That's, I asked the same question. It's the one that's going down to the parks and getting used and abused. It's not the one that's, I thought it was the one for fire. That was already on there, but I think it's because it takes so much abuse.
Yeah, when we
Right.
talked about the needs for the recreation department, we discussed a truck or this Polaris, this side by side, ended up picking the Polaris so that it can just have a little bit different functionality, but it's used around town.
I'm not questioning rotation. I'm not questioning
Oh,
the
no,
truck.
no.
I'm questioning why is it in a truck category and not equipment category?
Oh,
It's used as a vehicle essentially.
Okay.
sorry, Wayne, didn't understand your question.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it has to be thought of like that. If you feel like there's a better way, then.
I just want to be able to explain it if the public asks, why do we put it there?
Angie, the dump truck is a 2016.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why we have smart people to cover me.
Well, I should have had it in there, so I apologize. That's my bad.
So does it need to be replaced before 2028? But we're replacing those 2 at the same time, right? Is it cheaper for you? Do you get a discount if you order 2 at the same time?
Never checked, you've never replaced them at the same time.
That's fair. That's a fair.
I
answer.
would dare say they may, but I don't know. On
I
the
don't
state
know.
contract, I don't know.
You know, we can look on the state contract like that. I mean, me and Tia and Derek can get together and look at all of them and just say, let's make a plan on how to
Okay,
stretch them out.
I'd like that.
We almost need to look at the 5-year rotation as its own program.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so that we can overlap that with the 3-year and we can map that out.
Okay.
Maybe
I just
a
want to
little
make sure that if that's a 2017, 16, 2016, so that makes it 12 years old. at rotation time, so.
It is what it is now.
Yeah.
We have to squeeze another year to go.
Okay,
And we said 5-year rotation kind of from this point forward, not 5-year rotation based on its age. And so we may want to look at that and,
You probably need to.
yeah. Okay, well, we'll work on those options for fleet or that option for fleet and bring that back in the tentative budget. The other fleet item to discuss maybe before Maureen gets here, move down a few slides into the large apparatus discussion. Those slides are the same, but page 79, the very last page of the packet. The budget currently has the hybrid option in it. The 130,000 annually set aside there in the capital projects fund with basically half of the ARPA money remaining in order to catch up from that previous, conversation that we've had. That's what's in the budget. If you want to do something differently with that, then of course we can talk about it. But that is to order a Quint this fall.
so hybrid option 2 is what's in there, and that's what we discussed at our retreat.
The hybrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the option I support.
I do support that option as well. Just so it doesn't get construed, I'm sure there will be more discussion on Quint versus engine. No, and just so that it doesn't get construed that we all agreed to that. I mean, I still don't know what I agreed to. I don't know my opinion. I was hoping that public safety will come back at some point with some kind of recommendation and justification.
We can do that. So question, is the same time constraint for ordering with an engine, a pump engine or Quint? Or is it just the Quints that are up to how far are we out now?
4 years.
4?
The engines don't take quite as long, but they're still
Pretty-
three-year build
Pretty
times.
close.
Okay.
So council, when do we need to have our decision on that? We're
This fall.
budgeting for 1.3, which would be the budget for a Quint as of the last time we discussed it. Could be higher or lower. But we have to have it ordered by September 1st? What's,
Build times right now are still sitting at about 4 years for Pierce. Rosenbauer's got a little bit quicker turnaround time, but not much quicker.
so what day, Derek, do we need to have that ordered by?
With a 4-year build time by the end of the year, reach our 2018 or 2028 goal. But just to be clear, it's not an easy process to spec and build these plans. So I need an answer sooner. If the goal is to order by the end of the year, I need to know 6 months before that. So I have time to do what we did with the engine, go through with a fine comb and make sure it fits our needs. And
So if we were talking ordering September,
Is September enough?
that means you have till the end of the month to give us a recommendation if you want
Yeah.
6 months to plan for it.
yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, I remember from last time, it was a process.
So it's not as easy as tell me in September and I order in October.
Exactly.
I just wanted us to have a date and have a plan and say we're done with this discussion.
Let's go with by the end of this meeting.
Okay, well.
Everybody, hope you brought a lunch.
Sorry, it's not on the agenda. We can't make a decision because it's not on the agenda.
But if the timing wise though, it really would be by next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever public safety meets next month, that should be your,
We'll come back with a recommendation to bring to city council, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a council
May
decision.
14th.
What information do you want from the Public Safety Committee in order to have that be a productive conversation?
Do you want us to just come back and say we're going with a Quint, or do you want us to bring what the options for each one of them really is and the cost and what we can and can't do.
I wouldn't mind seeing just laying out the difference in cost and everything, but then with the recommendation on which one you recommend.
Okay.
I'd like to add to that. I'd like to understand the pros and cons of the two as to why we're going with the Quint. What benefit does it bring the city? You know, uses wise, how is it benefiting the city to have the one over the other for that dollar? Just to kind of support that recommendation.
Also, with all of the equipment that's necessary on each of them, and make sure that is a factor. I don't know if it's different.
I think he
If-
was
if you
saying
get
that's
a
gonna take
Quint-
about 6 months.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Everybody else says it. I never do. I'm sorry, Joel. Only a little bit though. Is the equipment necessary for a Quint versus an engine different?
No, as far as the hose lays and everything else we're gonna have on there, it's gonna be no different. And that's the benefit we have this time versus last time is last time we just had a, 18-year-old engine, 28-year-old engine, with 28-year-old equipment. But with this rotation, a lot of those things have a longer lifespan, so it's not gonna be as big of a lift as it was this last time.
Okay, so what I would love to know is the different equipment we're going to need to add on there. And is 1.3 still a current enough bid, or do you think it's more now?
Until we spec them out, it's hard to get a hard number, but I know they're going right in that 1.3 to 1.6 million
Okay.
right now. So I'm hoping to keep us at the lower end of that. But and again, that's part of the process of going through and eliminating niceties and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
I've got one question, Dave. It's one-time ARPA money, 259. Have we already pulled that out, or is that part of what we've got left?
There's-
498.
Yeah,
or
498,000 is what is still
available.
remaining for
Remaining.
ARPA, has not been earmarked for anything.
So it's,
Not counting
That's
this
not-
250.
that's not counting some of this too.
Yeah, there's 500,000, 498. If
Right.
you use the 250, then it cuts that in half.
Okay.
Okay.
And
That's
then,
what I wanted to know.
That's, yeah.
excuse me, and then our date to, when do we have to have that?
End
spent
of
by?
this year, we have to make the
Allocate.
determination. We have to allocate it. We were hoping to just make that part of the budget process and have that done here within
For
the next
sure.
couple of months.
Okay.
I will do kind of an aside with that statement. Staff's recommendation to this point had been using the other half of that ARPA money for the major 7375 project, right? The street widening and the storm drain and the water and whatnot. However, over the last couple months since the retreat, as we have dug into that and looked into that, we have not found a way to make the storm drain portion pencil, right? We do not have enough money to do that project this year. And so staff's recommendation is to push that off, hopefully to next year or just as soon as we can get it. But we could still use ARPA money for that. But that's again, maybe a side topic, but just so you know, as we touch ARPA, that's the broader picture of ARPA.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Those were the topics we wanted to address before Marin got here. Are there questions or concerns that we could answer? We can dig into the other preparation and things even before she gets here, but are there general topics or questions we could answer for you at this point?
You opened Pandora's box to me, so I'm going to walk in. When you mentioned ARPA monies for the storm sewer, not having enough, given the hybrid approach, if all of the ARPA monies were applied to the storm drain, would there be enough monies to complete the storm drain project?
I'd have to look at that off the top of my head. I'm not 100% certain.
The other way I'm looking at this is, what's the net dollar amount we have to save per year in order to get that storm drain project in? And is that greater or less than the $50,000 difference between the hybrid and the annual approach on purchasing this truck? What I'm getting at is, would it be better for us to go annual on this approach if I get that storm drain sewer in quicker than doing the hybrid and having to push that storm drain off further? knowing if I could put the full hybrid or the full ARPA monies to it. Has that been looked at, or is that not even a possibility?
Marin is the one that would have the detailed numbers on that analysis. I don't have it off the top of my head. But I do know that she has looked at some different ways, especially related to the other kind of large project of the Public Works facility and the bond payments. The request was to look at the various options there. I know she's done that in terms of rotating the different funds to just take the entire bond payment each year, or to prorate that out to each fund based on, you know, a percentage. What it has in the budget right now is a little bit of a hybrid to that as well, recognizing that we had started down a path based on previous analysis to use the fund rotation process. So the current budget shows the sewer fund taking the full 707,000 this year, and then moving toward the proration amount after that. And based on that, and based on, you know, reserve thresholds, wanting to make sure that we're not drawing the entire fund balance in storm drain or any other fund down to zero, you know, we have to maintain certain reserve funds there. That's a great question of whether that 250,000 moves the needle far enough to be able to do the project now or not. I don't believe it does, but that's a good question.
Go ahead. If I remember right, the amount that was having to come out of the other funds and general fund that we'd have to borrow basically was significantly more than the extra 250.
Yeah.
That's all I was asking.
Yeah.
If that had been looked at, then yeah, the hybrid still works,
But if it didn't, I think that'd be a great idea.
Are other items up for discussion while we're waiting?
Yes.
The fire side by side. Can we talk about that while Chief's here?
Yep.
Cool. All right.
It's currently in the budget at the $64,000
For a purchase.
for a purchase. Yes. And the thinking behind that, a couple of things. One is that's the type of vehicle that we would consider more of the purchase and use until it would need to be rotated out. It would not be on a, am I speaking out of turn there, Derek? That it would not be a, you know, set time rotation. It would be more of a purchase it and use it as long as we could. And so because of that, it was a purchase rather than a financed purchase.
Derek, I know that you showed us pictures of that before, has different specialty equipment on it. Is any of that equipment stuff that we could potentially reuse if it's not worn out to replace?
Yes.
Or to, when we get a replacement vehicle?
Yeah, just like the brush trucks, they're built in the skid fashion. And so that skid can be taken off and mounted on a new one. In fact, I think most of you have been around long enough. If you remember our Humvee brush truck,
Mhm.
that skid was a skid that we stole off of a different brush truck. And so they're designed to be able to have a longer lifespan than the lifespan of the vehicle.
Do you want to clarify stole?
Like, did we take South
We were
Ogden's? Tell me
given.
we took South Ogden's.
We had a department donate a brush truck to us when we were first transitioning. We used that skid off an old 1974 pickup truck. I moved the skid off a 1974 brush truck onto the Humvee. One other thing about that, we've had, just in the last week, we've had 3 calls we could have used that on, including last night. We had somebody go down by the river and it ended up cutting through fences to get to them. So, anyway, there's that.
How'd you handle that one instead? Just
We cut
manually
through fences and then manually carried. the
carried
person
out?
through it.
So how would you have used this differently?
We could have got the side by
Jump.
side right down where.
Jump the
vehicle
fence?
was. No, we would have used the trail access
The trail access?
and taken the side by side down the trail to get to where the person was. And then last week we had a broken leg down at the soccer facility. We had the ground was dry, so we actually drove our ambulance out onto the field. And then all Also, this last week, we had a kayaker missing in the river. We never found the kayaker, but there's a kayak, and we did what we did last spring, go up and down the river by foot looking for someone, because someone reported a kayak in the river and pulled the kayak out, but hopefully it's just something somebody lost.
Wow.
So when you cut the fence, who pays for that repair?
UDOT. Same with on brush fires,
Right.
and we've communicated with them to try to get access in the past. And they refused, and so we cut their fences and they repaired.
Okay. So let me find the fire budget again.
So page 18.
Thank you. Did anybody have any
Sorry, it
thoughts while I
starts on
find that?
16.
I have a little heartburn over ordering it. Not that we don't need it. We do, I just know about spending that money for it.
For the side by side.
Um. Oh, hold on a second. Let me look at this before I pass.
On last night's call, we ended up calling for a different fire department to come work on the fence while our guys provided patient care. So we actually ended up calling in a different fire department to come work on getting us better access to get that patient out, because the person was badly injured and our guys were busy taking care of the patient, and we called for backup to come help us get access to get the patient out of where they were.
What do you think? What you're thinking, Andy?
Okay, well, originally I was saying no on this. But
I can show you pictures
I've
of
been-
their arm if you want.
of their arm. I can see why it would be useful. I just wish it wasn't so much. It's just hard. It's hard to do that and a large apparatus at the same time. Because we're restructuring our budget to accommodate that. And I know that that wasn't necessarily the fire department's fault. I recognize that, but we're increasing our budget. Let me go back to this. From 91,000 to 130,000 for the fire truck. Large apparatus,
What
so
page are you-
$40,000.
What page are you on so we can get it on this monitor?
I'm back on page 79 to say what the increase is over fiscal year 24 to 25 for the increase for the large apparatus. So we did 91,000, 24 and 25, it's 130,000. But I think I was on page 18 for fire. Does that answer your question? Or is getting that?
Yeah, you're putting some information out and it wasn't on the screen, so I was trying to track along
Oh.
with what you were saying. I was trying to
Okay.
get that. So your page 18 is what you're talking about.
No, I was on page 79. Page 18
Okay.
is just the rest of the fire department budget.
Thank you.
Yep. I guess I would love to see, now hold on, let me clarify. This is already in the budget. It's already proposed
Right.
in the budget. And you have room to keep it. There's no more buildings that necessary.
We're gonna park it on the iconic stage and go around.
I sure hope you do. Maybe a little curtain in the front.
I can see the need for it. And I think it needs to be in the budget. I I hope we look at a lot of options because there's a lot of options out there for less money than 64,000.
Yeah, we can look at other options and we can make it strictly EMS without the pump fire suppression aspect of it, but honestly, we'd use it a lot for that too, if we have it available, so
Yeah.
it's hard to pick one use over the other use, which is why we're going with both uses.
The pump and the life safety thing, it looks pretty convoluted on the back of that when there's not a lot of room to put a patient.
No, there's a stretcher
Portion on the side, I see that. It is pretty tight.
It is tight, but
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's having worked for other departments where we have lots of trails. They're invaluable, especially when you're stuck having to carry patients out and stuff. It's not ideal, but it's kind of the middle ground between that and us calling in a helicopter with a hoist, right?
Mhm.
We don't want to abuse that either.
So I'm asking the question, are these available for sale used?
I'm sure we can find used ones.
I just feel like there's such a push for trail use. And if we're pushing the whole state is, people live here because they want to use the recreation and stuff like that. And I hate to have us not be able to access people. To me, it's a little embarrassing to hear that we had to have another department come help us. Maybe it's not to others. I don't know. So I'm late. I know I was a very strict no about this in January, but I just feel like there is a use for this that we could definitely use it. But if there's options that we can get it used or cheaper, I don't know if other places, they have the same philosophy that they use it till it's worn out. I don't know, but
I think, I'm always willing to look at outside the box ways to do things. So I'm not opposed to doing that. I know initially when this was brought up, as part of the lease rotation. And that's why initially we were looking at new. And then we kind of went back and forth on lease or just purchase it outright. And that's why we mainly talked about new. But I can look into used ones. I don't have a problem doing that at all.
What other departments have these?
Layton's got several, one on the east end, one on the west end. We borrowed Farmington's multiple times. Caseville has them. Salt Lake City has like 4. Ogden has one. Weaver Fire District has one. Lots of departments have.
Okay.
What's the life expectancy you plan to get out of one if you were to procure one new? 10 years, 5 years?
Farmington's had theirs for about 15 years. And I know they're looking at rotating that out. So that's really the only data that I have.
Well, if you had to put a minimum time frame on it, what would you say? No less than?
I think 15 years seems about right.
Okay, so 60 grand over 15 years, $4 grand a year.
4,266 a year.
$4 grand a year.
Thanks, Angie.
You're welcome. I did.
I think somebody has one of those 1,000s that they could donate to the city.
Quit looking at me.
It looks just like this picture too.
Donate's a big word.
Well, I just want to make sure that it's out there that I put this in for the budget because the chief recommended it. This is something that he wants and he thinks that he needs and the department would benefit from it. And I put a lot of trust in his opinion on those kind of things. I personally, the price tag is way too high for the amount of use that we have. And that's with me trying to hold back any bias I have against people who go hiking all the time. I can't. It's like bicycle. I just can't do it. But I think that although we have to look at the safety of all of the individuals possible, this is one, unlike the Quint, that there are other ways of doing it. And I hate to say it, but we can even do it manually. We have got an incredible calendar of firemen down there that are just they're able to handle this kind of thing, and this is what they trained for. Not saying that that's what we should do with it. I would love to see what can we do, buying one used and getting it. But I'll tell you also from my time on the mosquito abatement, as we sell each one of those four-wheelers, the amount of damage that is done to them, we're lucky that we're able to just get even a few grand out of it because of how much damage it takes when you've got that much extra weight on it and you're going through trails nonstop. I mean, when you told me that, or told us that Farmington goes 15 years with it, I was very surprised on that. But that's because with mosquito abatement, they have the large heavyweight, not fuel, but poison tank in the back. So is it something that I think that we need? I think that it would definitely help our fire department out. Right now, we don't get much use on the trails back there, and the one that we do, we split with Riverdale or South Ogden. I can't remember the one that crossed the freeway over there.
That whole trail system
Is in ours. Do we ever split the calls on that? Does 911 designate, since we have the entryway to it, anything that happens on it is ours, or does that include if it gets, down over into the Riverdale or South Ogden area, it goes to them?
Yeah, Riverdale has their access down on their side of the town.
Uh-huh.
And typically how we try to do it, especially along that 84 corridor,
Uh-huh.
since the borders are so convoluted, typically we'll send multiple agencies just to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
So are you done? I had a question for him.
No,
Okay, you just let
Okay.
me know when you're done.
please go.
Thank you, Joel. So just help us understand your process. So someone falls in the river, you get the call, and then your firemen are walking back and forth miles on the river
Right.
to find somebody. Let's say someone's on the trail, they fall, they're not in the river, you have to go rescue them. You guys leave your apparatus at the trailhead, you go find them, carry them back to the engine, or depending on the situation?
Depends on where it's at. If they're close enough to the freeway, because obviously a lot of that trail is
Mhm.
bordering the freeway, we're not going to park at the trailhead. We're gonna jump the fence. But like last night, when it comes to carrying a severely injured person out, we're having to cut fences, and it's easy to jump over the fence when it's just me throwing my gear over. But when you're carrying people out, that's where it becomes completely different.
Sure.
And it's a hazard not only for the patient, it's a hazard for our guys. Because there are people your size that hike and break their ankles. And that's where
We do it easy.
I understand it's expensive. It seems like something that would be used a lot. I focus a lot on the medical side of things, but we would use it all the time on our wildland fires. It would have been so useful on the F-35 crash, trying to get access up on that hill, I think I've undersold its usefulness on the fire side of things.
So here's how I feel. $4,200 a year. I'm going to apply the same logic that I did on Street Scan. I know some people don't like that either, but it seems like a pretty cheap investment every year to be able to utilize. So I'm leaning towards keeping it in. That's where I'm at. I'd love to see it cheaper, but I'm leaning towards keeping it in because I know that it will be used. Wayne?
I think it brings value to the city, given the uses. $60,000 is a lot of money. If we can find it for less, I would support that, but I support the budget as submitted.
Yeah, the topography of our city is such that it seems like it would be extremely useful. I mean, we have you guys know what it looks like, right? The open space here, mountains, river. I think it would be useful.
And even today in our we had a developer construction meeting today, and that development's putting in more trucks. So, I don't think we've seen a build out as far as trails go. Our need's only gonna go up as we keep adding more and more trails.
Correct. And the county keeps pushing to
Once
to
the
connect
Bonneville-
onto those
once
shorelines.
Bonneville shoreline
will
goes
not
through
go
you
in.
guys, they're gonna really need
It will not.
Yeah.
Mark my words, you guys, I'm fighting this as much as I can. But
We're-
if someone
We're supporting
else,
it,
you're supporting it,
of course.
let's go fight in the parking lot. I'm not gonna let it go in. But if somebody does,
What would- if I start looking for used one, what would be an acceptable number?
I think you should
I
tell us
don't
what's
know.
out there.
Huh?
I don't even know what's out there. That's what, I mean,
And we don't want to get something that's gonna just be,
Garbage.
no, we don't.
because they are plastic and very little steel frame and
And they
it's not
wear
a,
out quickly.
I think to Joel's point, like anything we buy used, who knows what we're getting.
but I'd like to see, I think we just need to see what we can do to save
Yes.
and get it down from the 64.
Geez, Derek, gosh. One more thing for the fire department.
I'm sorry, but to quote the great Mark Larson, it's not like this is going home to sit in my garage. This is for the fire department.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I didn't think about that, but I guess it would have to. That price includes a trailer for transport?
I wouldn't, no, because with the size of our city, I'm not really worried about trailering it anywhere.
It has lights on it, right?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
you would cross the freeway going,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
okay, 475 stuff, okay.
looking online, since we're not killing time anymore. There's only one for sale online and it's a police one, so I'll keep looking.
But how much is it? How much is it? It's not gonna have the same equipment, but
For a law enforcement one, it's $30,000 used, and that's for a 10-year-old or 11-year-old side by side is 30,000.
Okay,
Mayor, thanks for indulging me in that conversation.
okay, Marin, thank you for coming.
Thanks for being patient with me. Okay, so we just want to start at the beginning of my slides. I know you guys talked about fleet and fire. Page 67.
66 or 7.
So 67 is the, that one-page document I told you would keep showing up. After all the numbers and all the conversations, it made sense to take that project out, 7375 South project out, so that is no longer on this sheet. Yeah, any questions about this sheet before we keep chatting? Move forward. Okay. So then page 68, I just wanted to give a nice clean view of what fiscal year 24 budget was and what we're proposing for fiscal year 25. Like we talked about in the retreat, this budget is really just about maintaining our same level of service. And that's showing here in that small difference, but at least there is a little bit of a decrease there. Page 69, I know it's a lot of numbers, I'm a little busy. I did just want to point out some of the major changes in some of those funds. So we do have less water projects for fiscal year 25. One of the water projects, now I can't remember which one, 1375, I think got rebudgeted for fiscal year 25. It's not going to be completed by the end of 24. So that just has moved over to the fiscal year 25. We have the LVA bond payment. We have no large TEF projects for this year. There's less development, so you'll see that.
Excuse me, where do we take out the bond payment?
You'll see it in the sewer impact fee, and then it moves to the sewer fund for revenue. No large tough projects this year, less development, so impact fees. Nothing to write home about what's happening there, and then what you guys just chatted about, the side-by-side purchase and the increase in the large apparatus reserve. Any questions on this page specifically?
So are we doing any tough projects at all? We're saying not large.
No, there's just, I believe in the spreadsheets, it's just like some curbing and sidewalk repair.
So we are gonna do some of that.
Isn't that the 655? There's gonna be some.
Which page are you looking at?
That same one.
Yeah, 69.
It says transportation utility,
Okay.
655,000.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's significantly less than last year, but it's still a significant amount.
I just think we still need to do some. Can't just let it.
No, I agree. We should spend it as we have it to make sure those projects are done.
Yeah, so right now, per Brandon Jones, we only have 15,000 for curb gutter and sidewalk repair. And then the majority is the street scan software, and then that tough. Oh my gosh, yes, the rate study, thank you, is happening. So if we want to add some more, the reason it shows 655 is the majority of, not majority, I'm sorry, that was. A lot of that is going to fund balance. So just to show a balanced budget, that's why it shows 655 in expenses.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Sorry, so our revenues for the tough, because we have that tough fee, is more than our expenses. So to show a balanced budget, we're showing that as an expense to
I
move
see.
it to the fund
Okay.
balance. So if we want to up the curb gutter and sidewalk repair budget amount, I'm happy to, but right now it's just showing us 15,000.
Because that's what we're taking in.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Brandon can speak to this, probably.
Sorry, the revenue is much higher than,
Yeah,
the revenue is 526,000. And so the fund balance, we're not spending it's a fund transfer on the balance sheet,
Mhm.
or you don't balance. We always have a fund transfer, or you have a negative, one of the two,
Right,
or a zero. And so, but there is money we could use. If you're saying we need to do it, there's a $500,000 plus going to fund balance
that we could.
that
use
could
for
be
projects.
spent next year.
Or we save the planning for that 7375 South project that we will have to do.
We just got
That's
some,
part of
and
it,
we
yeah.
have residents have them calling me all the time
Yeah.
saying sidewalk or curb or whatever. To just say, well, we're not gonna do anything this year. You know, they get kind of upset.
We could absolutely do curb gutter and sidewalk. I mean, every year we could do a ton of it, but never catch up.
Yeah.
So like I said, for years, they were just giving me $10,000 the last 2 years, they're like $100,000, and we're still behind, but we could absolutely do curb gutter and sidewalk repairs.
Yeah, what we found the last few years, a couple of years ago, we put out a large project for just concrete work throughout the city and did not get any takers on that.
Right,
So last year, if you remember, we did a large project
right.
for street maintenance, kind of built up and did a major project. But it had a lot of different elements throughout the city, and we included the sidewalk repair in that so that we could get bids and get that taken care of. In my conversations with Mark, he said there may be options for kind of the smaller one-off repairs rather than needing to do a big, large sidewalk project. And so that was kind of the angle we were looking at, as well as having that money build up for the 7375 project. And so it was a combination of those to not have a huge number for sidewalk repair, although I agree 100%, there's need for continued work on the sidewalk.
I have a question for you. In my down the street from me, there's a home that hasn't had curbing in it for over a year. And it's just, there's an orange cone, but there's nothing that has been done. Is there a way for that is that the city's responsibility?
Who took it out?
I don't know, it's been out for over a year.
We'll look at it. If we would have taken it out, we'd have put it right back in.
Yeah,
But I'm assuming it's one of the other utilities gone in and done some work, or somebody's done some work.
I asked the homeowner if they contacted him. And he didn't know who would be responsible, so
Send me the address.
I don't know.
We'll check on it.
So the the non-expensive software that we're getting for the street scan, shouldn't that be pointing out what we would be doing on the transportation utility fee? As in, I know we've got a small amount in it, but wouldn't we be doing more based on those results?
Yes, it will inform where the needs are and what we need to do.
And that would take up the 65 or the 655,000.
I don't think that would all go to sidewalk repair, but we could put more into the sidewalk repair. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, great use of that
It
software.
really is, yeah. Minus 4,000.
The transportation utility fee, if I recall, had several purposes. One of those was to not surplus the dollar or hold on to the public dollar. It was to invest it into the refurbishment and or the repair to our streets. Replacement is a slippery slope. When you talk about 73, 75, there is the aspect of roads that have to be removed and replaced because the entire asphalt's no good. But if you're widening the street, the transportation utility fee does not go to improved or added.
Correct.
Just the replacement. So I'm kind of with the mayor where if we've got the money of the public, that money needs to be put to use. Now I get if we're going to do a 1-year pause to use this program to assess where we're at, the value we put in to redirect where we want to put the money to do for good use. If that's what I'm hearing, we're taking a pause to figure out where we want to spend it. Okay. But if we don't know and we're still collecting it, and then I think I saw on the previous slide, you want to increase it 3%. We need to have a plan as to where we want to put that money.
Right, we have a 5-year street maintenance plan. That is an ongoing thing that we've got. And again, Brandon could speak a little bit more to the planning aspect of this. But you said that correctly, that knowing we're doing the transportation utility fee rate study, using the StreetScan software, that could inform us on how to use that. And we could easily turn around and amend the budget with that information, and then use that. There is no intent to charge money and hold it indefinitely.
Okay.
And it is.
I appreciate that clarification because that's not what I was hearing the first time.
Yeah,
So thanks.
Right.
And if it makes us, I mean, you could do this 2 ways. We could either just amend the budget knowing there's $588,000 there that we move to fund balance. Or we could say, we want to do 150,000 for sure and put it in the budget, and it would just reduce that contribution to fund balance.
Right.
If someone wants, mayor wants to say, hey, let's put 150,000 towards these sidewalks and some of these things, we can do that and just, I'm sure we'll find the projects.
Yeah, we've got.
But I'm assuming after street cans, we're gonna have the projects to do.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
So does that mean, because we've already used the street scan before, right?
Mhm.
So we've already taken over like the top ones, the ones that came from that original study that said, here's our A level and. Okay.
Right. We have a 5-year street maintenance program or plan, so we could say which ones are targeted for each fiscal year. And then each year we do those projects and we evaluate it and say, are any of these projects over years 2 through 5, do they need to be adjusted to with, or other projects move in? So that does happen year by year.
I thought the overall the goal of the program was to increase our remaining service life of our roads. Before it was like 7 years, 7 to 9 years was the remaining service life. Brand new road being 20 years, we were trying to get that number something around the 13, 14, area. So this study or this program we're going to go out should give us an assessment as to the money we've invested for the last 7 years has improved our remaining service life 0, or we've increased it this much. That's what I'm hoping to get from that so that we can make better decisions moving forward.
That's exactly the information we want to gain.
Okay.
It's a great value.
Do you want to put a number out there for a certain amount of sidewalk repair?
Well, I'm always worried if we don't, it's going to be spent by another department.
I think we should.
So
Well, in this case, that
It
can't
can't
happen
be.
because this money is specifically earmarked for that type of thing.
I thought it was going into the general fund.
No,
Fund balance.
Oh, okay, you're right. Sorry.
I like to have a plan moving forward before putting any money in the budget. So I'm more of the opinion of let's hold on to it, figure out what the plan is, and then if we need to open up the budget to them.
And I'm good with
And then
that.
I would go that route than just arbitrarily picking a number for whatever.
I agree.
I agree.
Yep.
No change.
Leaving it as it is.
Okay, so slide 70 is just general fund, just drilling down in general fund and the differences there. Nothing's really changed since we've spoken before, so are there any questions on this slide in particular? 71, I just wanted to give a summary of which funds are using fund balance in order to be a balanced budget. So capital projects is 112, that's mainly for the large apparatus. And then capital projects is also using 96,000 of RAP tax for those playgrounds. Playground. Water, I talked about the water project that's being rebudgeted. So that's just, that was money that was expected to be used in fiscal year 24, and then sewer impact fee, that is for the LBA bond payment. Recreation, for those that were in the rec budget committee, this is probably a large topic of conversation today. Because the gravel pit revenue, we got a estimated revenue number and it's down about 80%. So recreation will have to be held up by general or by fund balance for the next little while until or if, right, the gravel pit is extracting again.
You can see the under recreation, general fund and recreation fund. The general fund has always supported the recreation fund. That number is not a significant change. It's the recreation fund balance that is a significant change. We do have a slide that shows the total recreation fund balance. That's earlier in the slideshow, but it's not something we could do indefinitely, right?
Right.
Using a recreation fund balance is a 2-year, maybe 3-year proposition until we could figure out a more long-term solution. But we've had, because of the decrease in development and the significant change to the extraction amount that we get there, specifically earmarked for recreation fund, it has put us in a major shortfall to the tune of that 122,000 from recreation fund balance. That is not related to any programs. I think it's important to note that all of the programs are supporting themselves with their user fees and participation fees. This is more of having a recreation department with the cost of administration and a facility and things like that. Not having development means we're not having impact fees that then could go to pay off for the facility bond payment for the next few years. That does get paid off entirely. I want to say, what was it, 3 years?
3 years.
And so there is relief in that regard, but those are all kind of combining to say we have a deficit in the recreation fund. And so it shows the current budget has fund balance to prop that up as kind of an emergency measure.
So now you gave us the bad news. Once you give us the light at the tunnel, what's the good news about the pit not doing more excavation?
our dust mitigation conversations have been different in the last couple months.
Yeah, there is a trade-off. We are significantly hindered with the sales tax revenue because they're not excavating as much. But because they're not excavating as much, there's less likely of new dust being developed. So there's a trade-off.
Only, I mean, because this isn't really the discussion, but aren't they still transferring similar amounts out of there? It's just not being mined from there.
That's correct.
So there's still a lot of dust, especially if they're crushing.
Yeah, it's not 100% one-to-one, but yeah.
I will point out one more thing when it is related to the gravel pit, specifically Staker Parson. They still have their batch plant there that is providing sales tax to the city for point of sale. We are only talking about the amount that is for their specific extraction. It's 7 cents a ton or something like that. I'd have to look to remind myself, but based on the tonnage that they are actively extracting out of there, we get a portion of that. And because they're not actively extracting very much anymore, we're basically 80% down in that revenue source.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no good news on that one. Although in 3 years, that bond will be paid off, so that will help. And we are getting our own vending machine in there, so hopefully that'll move things
That'll supplement.
in the right direction.
Start selling a lot.
Okay, so page 72, I just kind of wanted to summarize kind of our big budget decisions, things, if we want to keep it in, take it out. The one that I don't think, well, maybe there's a couple on here, but the recycling, what I mean by that is we had spoken in January about possibly buying the recycling cans for that project this fiscal year, or did we want to wait until the recycling program moved forward, or? So I just wanted to put that here as a discussion point. If we wanted to buy the.
You're saying in this current fiscal year?
In fiscal year 25, do we?
Okay,
wanna-
yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
do we want to include in the budget? Right now it is not. But I just wanted to bring it as a reminder that we wanted to chat about it.
Do we ever want to buy the cans?
Well, I think in our last, I don't remember what meeting it was in, but we were talking about finding out options from the people, from whether the waste man, the haulers, there you go. If they're willing to buy the cans, put our name on the cans, what are their options out there, like, before we kind of make that decision and come back with a recommendation. Because there's a lot of different options. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what we want to do. The haulers will buy the cans, we've been told.
It's just whether it costs more or what's the
Yeah,
most
they're gonna-
economical
It's
way.
gonna cost us more if they provide the cans.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have an answer for that one before we adopt a tentative budget or even the final budget. This feels to me like a budget amendment discussion. We've got to do some research and bring that back to the council to make some informed decisions on that.
And how much is that decision looking right now?
If we purchased all of the cans, our estimates are between $50,000 and $65,000.
But if we do, one of the options we talked about is people would save. No, that's Blair. Blair would save money. If people have 2 cans right now and then they do swap one for recycling, it would be similar or a couple dollars less.
It's gonna be a little less.
Probably be
So-
a little less.
But
Before we promise that, I think we need to do
Right.
the
Right.
analysis. but-
Yes,
Kind
but
of
a
looking
s-
that way, yeah,
but a possibility if the haulers buy the cans, they would increase our rates.
right.
So it might not be a significant
Right.
change.
Yeah, the idea is that if we as a city purchase and own cans, we are essentially giving them to the residents to use for the collection of, of sanitation. But the haulers sometimes will own the can. I think most haulers don't want to own cans. They want the cities to own them or the residents to own them. And so they will purchase them and essentially provide them to the city and or the residents. But then the residential cost goes up,
Right.
right? Their monthly cost goes up to buy those cans back over time.
Yeah, okay. Yep, we need more information.
And on top of that cost, if we own the cans and they don't, then we need to pay our guys to deliver them. Every time they break, we replace them, somewhere to store them.
Which is our process right now, right? They're city-owned cans right now. So if we want to maintain that with the recycling program.
I think there's a lease to own program somewhere in there.
Well, and that was the other thing we did discuss too. What would, if they would front the cost and then put our names on them and they'd be our cans.
Yeah. We'll bring that information back about recycling.
Or Angie, we could just get chickens.
I think this is a great idea. Why don't you expound on that, Mark?
There's a place, is it Sweden?
Somewhere around there.
Anyway, they gave every citizen in town that wanted three chickens, and their wet waste went down like 500,000 ton a year. They're feeding their food scraps to the chicken. So there you go.
Problem
There you go.
solved.
We're
Landfill
supposed to be a
extended.
rural community.
can do pigs, I love bacon.
That's a creative solution.
Hey, 3 chickens is not even $20. Yeah.
So do we need to go through each one of these bubbles? Because we've gone through 3 of them already,
Yes, I would like to.
or 4 of them, sorry.
Is there anything more we want to talk about with the recreation revenue options, or was that? I mean, I kind of put it in there to bring it to the front of your minds. We're obviously not gonna solve that tonight, but. Just kind of keep it in our minds for future budget years. Hold the rate, for an increase, just assuming an increase in property values. And if we hold the property tax rate, that includes the truth in taxation process.
Right.
So.
Is everybody okay with that?
I'm good with that. I think we
I'm good
need,
with that.
I think we need to always do that.
Okay. The merit COLA, I know that David and the mayor were still talking about that. I haven't heard a final number, but once I do, I can put that in the budget.
The numbers you have in there now,
Is the 5.
is it where we were before, correct? Okay.
Yeah, no change from the retreat at this point.
And I think the other bubbles we have talked about, so. Any questions about, I mean, I know we sent a bunch of spreadsheets, but any line specific questions? We talked about on committees, so I don't think there are.
So I've got one question looking at the budget decisions.
Okay.
Looking at it, we've got the side by side, I believe, is the lowest one on there at 65K. Are there any other purchases, major spends, increases, anything like that? That, I mean, I'm not looking at anything in, just a couple grand, but anything that is causing an increase over what last year was needed in any of our departments?
Mainly on the one pager, I have the playground equipment, and then the cameras at the Cherry Farmson train station, which staff is still researching options, but it seems to me right now with the quotes we've gotten back, the 40 is kind of the high end anyways. So.
Okay. So everything else, we're basically staying the same, which is kind of when it appears to be at that
Correct.
opening statement, so.
Correct.
For our budget, yeah.
I have to tell you, Marin, I love this format. It's like so helpful and so streamlined. It makes this much easier. When I saw that it was the budget discussion, I was like, oh, okay, let's do it. But this was fantastic. So thank you.
Wonderful.
I agree. I booked out 2 days just to be able to read it and go through all the detail on it. And
And it took you 3.
no,
I kid.
I know,
Oh,
I
I'm
know.
sorry.
I got a question.
Yeah, sorry.
Going back, we haven't covered all the administrative expenses, but the one specific question, given the legislation on tier 2 retirement, meaning that the 10% is going to be exceeded by 0.7% this year. How are we addressing that as a city with the tier 2 employees that are on the hybrid program?
We haven't really talked about it, but me and Dave were at a conference this last week, UCMA with other city managers. And I heard 2 options that I'm remembering. One, maybe even 3. One, they said that they're giving the 0.7 as just a bonus to those employees, like a one-time bonus. One city said that they were giving an increase to those employees that affected of the 0.7. And now I can't remember the third one. Do you remember?
They were just having employees covered.
Yeah.
Just for those who might not understand the background here, the tier 2 program started in 2011, which is to put a cap on the employer's expenses that they're putting into the state retirement fund for those employees. They capped it at 10%. 10% was always put in there. So much of it went to the Utah retirement system, and then the difference, it was like 6% went into the Utah retirement system. The other 4% went into a 401k. Well, this year, because of the inflation, it's now required to have 10.7% for the URS system to be whole for these tier 2 employees. Well, because they capped it at 10%, the employers weren't obligated to pay anything more than that 10%. Legislation this year allowed us to go higher, and some of the special service districts are considering that, but some others are saying, no, that's why we went into the tier 2, because these costs were so exorbitant for the tier 1s. It was hard for businesses to budget for that. And so it should be a philosophical discussion as to what do we do as a board? Are we going to compensate? It's 0.7%. So we're talking like $20, $30 is what we're talking a month for the retirement system. Should we be absorbing that additional cost beyond 10% on behalf of staff? Or should staff be having that deducted from their paycheck and going into their pension program? That's the sense of the question, is where are we at and what do we want to do and what's being proposed? And we haven't made a decision yet, is what I'm hearing. Okay.
We haven't really discussed we haven't discussed that at all. I'm glad you bring it up.
I know that Tia's going to a training next week of URS to just gather more information there, maybe chat with some other cities and see what they're doing, but it's really just gathering information at this point from my perspective.
But we just know the retirement costs are going to continue to go up. So if you do it once, does that set a precedent that we're going to continue to do it? Is it just a one-time thing?
Right.
There's a lot to think about.
I do have something to bring up on this. So on page 13, we have our professional and tech, our entire IT budget. And we've got 33,000 going towards it. So I was talking with the state on this. They do have a number of programs, one specifically to handle some of the more dangerous aspects of the malware that we're still seeing out there. We had a good long talk, and Executech, while they do provide what the state provides and kind of passes it through, there are some things with the state that we do need to look into. Some software we may need to buy for it. So what's going on right now is that, excuse me, a lot of the ransomware that we're seeing hit cities. The last city that happened just a few weeks ago, they had the ransomware on their system almost 2 years ago. So it has gone through every backup, every piece of printed or stored, not printed, but stored media that was offsite, around the site, anywhere. So it wasn't, their plan was, I think, basically what we have, which is if it happens, we'll just shut it down and bring up one of the backups that we have offsite. If these have been around for 2 years, all of those are going to be infected as well. And just looking out at what some of the other cities are doing, it really kind of makes me question if, number one, we shouldn't take a little bit more and put that towards an actual IT, whether we use Executech or some of the other ones that are out there, whether it's using a personnel or whatever, I don't know, but I don't think we have enough with the 33. That has not been investigated, that has not checked to see what we do and don't have. But I do think that just from seeing the IT issues that we're having around, whether it's, connection and servers and all of these different kind of things that we've been working on, I do think we need to look at maybe increasing that. I will go and try to see what I can find out and see, unless staff wants to do that. You guys are more than welcome to do that. So, but I don't know if Executech, which does handle most of or a number of the cities out there, whether we've even got the right package with them right now. So just throwing that out there that we may have a increase that I recommend.
Joel, first of all, I need to apologize. I was just teasing you, just razzing you.
I know.
But second of all, I really appreciate you bringing that up because that is something that we have discussed for, I don't know how many years now, 2 or 3 years. And I feel like that's really important that we get some better protection for us on that. So I appreciate you bringing that back up again. That was something we discussed potentially using our ARPA money for.
So what do you want to do, staff? Do you want me to look into it? Do you want to assign somebody to it? The only reason I volunteer is because I have an IT background. But
How about you and I work together on that? Because I know just enough to be dangerous in that world, right? And so I would love some assistance in researching that and understanding that world better. There are other companies that provide services to, outsourced IT services to cities. There's research that could be done there, but in order to use that time well and make sure we're gathering the right information, I would need a little bit of direction, but.
well, the state actually has a grant that they've been using that they just were able to up to. They're going to be, if possible, paying that for all of the cities. There's even been talk up in the state capitol of having a solution kind of pushed through all of the counties and cities so that we're all on the same system, if you will, for security. But yeah, that sounds good.
I can start with connecting with the state on that and see where that goes.
Okay, I've got numbers and cards of the person that I talked to
Great.
at the council. When would we have to have that back so we can present it to the council?
Well, the adoption of the tentative budget will take place May 14th. And we will also set a date for a public hearing on that tentative budget. So the
So
public
before
can
the
see.
public hearing?
It'd be great to have that by the end of May. If we don't have, ultimately, the final budget would be adopted in June, by the end of June. However, the decision to go through truth and taxation process means that the final budget is actually adopted in August. And so we'll have until that point to get final numbers. If the question is out there, if we haven't adopted a final budget till August, but July 1st is the beginning of the fiscal year, the tentative budget that is adopted is the budget that we would start working off of.
Okay.
Any other budget questions?
I just want to thank staff for the level of effort you put in to present this. Thank you.
Good work.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
I've spent the last, hour looking for side by sides and got a 2009 used one for $40,000. just to give you some perspective of what we're looking at. There's another one that's even older that's going for 35,000.
Is this on the surplus sites or?
Yeah,
So what I'm hearing is it's a great return on our investment.
to just buy one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I looked at auction websites. None of these are fire EMS specific, but there's like 5 coming up for auction here in Salt Lake. The newest one's a 2013 with 3,000 hours on it. So we can look at the auction route too, if you would like me to.
Blair offered mine out for 30,000, so. It's only 2 years old and only has 200 miles on it, so.
I don't know if that sways any decision making for tonight, but she can tell you, I've been looking since we've talked about it, and that's all I'm finding.
So that, I mean, that is something we could consider. I don't know how many people buy those used. I have no idea.
I don't
If we
know.
do that on a vehicle replacement program.
2009.
Yeah,
15
2009.
years old.
I know, well, it's
For
for sale. Someone's gonna
40,000.
buy it. I feel like it's a ripoff. I'm just saying.
I don't disagree. Oh, and this one also has a plow connection.
Thank you for that information, Derek.
Yeah, I just figured, why wait? I've been scouring and that's what I can find is what I just shared with you, so.
Anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Ready to shut this down? Okay, let's look for a motion to adjourn.
So
We
moved.
just had it. We need a
Second.
second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.